it is possible for the SNP to force a general election here in Holyrood on the 19th, or so that we can have some kind of vote on the 19th of October, I think, this year, which was the original date that the SNP had chosen for its referendum. How does it happen? Well, first of all, interestingly, the First Minister would need to resign. Completely resign, not go back, and for the SNP's parliamentary party to not put forward a new candidate for the First Minister post. This is one of the very few conditions in which a snap general election can be held at Holyrood. Now, if we hold a snap general election at Holyrood, and that becomes a plebiscite election, and it's clearly stated in the publications and in the manifestos, if you like, for that general election, that any pro-independence party vote will be taken in total to be the settled will of the people. And that would include the first vote, that's for the constituency seats, which is done in first past the post, and in the second vote, which is known as the list seats, in which the numbers of votes cast are used as a means of allocating seats. Now, if you combine these two figures together, and if you add up the SNP vote, the Green vote, and possibly the ALBA votes, and any other pro-independence party votes that might come up, you should come up with a healthy and reasonably big majority in favour of independence. And it could happen in October of this year. But it depends on the SNP looking at this as the potential third option. At the moment, they have limited the options to a binary choice between a terrible idea and a worse idea. And the terrible idea is to go for a general election in the UK, where we've already shut out over 400,000 Scottish voters from that potential franchise, meaning that it's almost impossible for a vote count of over 50% to be achieved. It's extraordinarily difficult. Remember that the Tory party, which is leading the United Kingdom and is in government, has only got 38% of the popular vote in a general election, and they're governing. So it's unlikely, using the system at Westminster, that we would ever get over 50% of the vote after shutting out 400,000 young people and recently arrived New Scots. If they went by their second choice, which is to use a seat count in the Westminster election as an indication of desire for a Section 30, and then have another referendum in Holyrood in 2026, the entire thing is just moved down the road another, so many years, right? So we're talking from 2023 to 2026, another 3 years at least, plus whatever negotiating time is necessary if we win it. Either of these two options, neither of them to me are attractive, given the difficulties that people are facing trying to live in Scotland at the moment under the mismanagement of the Conservative Party in London. It would make a lot more sense to hold this referendum here in Holyrood by the First Minister resigning her seat as First Minister, and for the SNP not to put up any candidates and to force a new general election in Holyrood on the 19th of October this year. In that case, we would have from now until October to campaign hard for independence in a general election, which is not covered, incidentally, by the Supreme Court ruling, which only covers referendums. So we should do this. We really should, because this is the only way that we can actually win using a democratic event. And it's the most likely to succeed, and yet it's the only one which is left off the list. So, in my own opinion, is that this third option should be the preferred option, not the two that are being presented at the SNP's National Executive Committee conference in March. And the other thing is, I don't even know if people from outside of the SNP are being invited to this emergency democracy conference in March, on March the 19th. They might not. But the trouble is, the limitation on what we're voting for makes it almost impossible for us to win, first of all, a general election, not a mandate, but a general election majority in a general election next year in Westminster, or we have to wait until 2026 for a general election in Holyrood to do the same thing again. Why wait till 2026 when we could do that this year? So those are sort of my opinions on the way things are going at the moment. I noticed also, just in passing, that I think it's Colin Mackay, the STV interviewer who was on the TV the other day interviewing Mr. Sunak, went for him and actually accused him of dodging the question. Did he think he would respect the result of a de facto referendum within the next general election? And all Sunak would do was evade and dodge the question. But that's the first time I've seen any mainstream TV journalist actually try to force a Prime Minister in the United Kingdom who's come to Scotland to actually answer that question. And Sunak did nothing but dodge. He looked very, very uncomfortably squirmed. He tried to dodge the question. He tried to deflect the question. He tried to answer other questions. He wouldn't answer this one. And I think that gives you an idea of just how intransigent the United Kingdom will be, even if we did get over 50% of the popular vote in the Westminster election next year. The whole of the British state would not accept it. And this is why, as I've mentioned before in previous programmes, we need to get the legal underpinnings right as well as the political event right. If we have a general election here in Holyrood this year, after the SNP forces a snap general election, then we have every chance of winning. To get the United Kingdom to agree to negotiate is another matter. And this is why Salvo is so important, because Salvo is working hard at the moment to build up enough membership to send a delegation to the International Court of Justice, which will give a legal ruling which absolutely overrides anything that the Supreme Court in the United Kingdom says, because self-determination is an international human right under the Charter of the UN. The UN itself is probably too sluggish and has too many vested interests. The United Kingdom is on the Security Council. It has a veto on virtually everything. It's unlikely, given the United Kingdom's already proven track record in breaking international treaties, such as the one with the European Union over the Northern Ireland Protocol, that it would pay any attention to the UN anyway. However, having the correct underpinnings legally from an international court such as the International Court of Justice in The Hague would mean that any result of a Holyrood election this year would be not just a mandate for a Section 30 order, but would signal the end of the Union. And Scotland could declare itself independent on the back of that legal ruling, no matter what the United Kingdom said or did. That would lead to a confrontation which is inevitable. Political confrontation is the only way in which secession actually happens in almost every case. We don't want to have any kind of force applied to Scotland by the United Kingdom. We certainly don't want to see troops on the streets in the way that it was done in Northern Ireland in the 1970s. Scotland is a very different place from Northern Ireland, and people would not accept that. But they would accept the rule of law, especially if it's the rule of international law from the International Court of Justice. And this is what we need. We need a referendum this year. We need it to be held in Scotland under our own regulations, where the votes are counted, and we know exactly how many votes have been counted in favour of independence parties. And it wouldn't matter whether it was an SNP vote, an ALBA vote, or a Green vote. All of these parties are pro-independence, and so long as they say that a vote for them is a vote for independence, then they would be counted. And there would be no need for even any kind of alliance between the three parties. They could campaign on individual tracks running parallel to each other without any kind of written agreement, as long as they all understood that they must have independence as the only manifesto pledge. This is the way I think it should be done, and I know that many SNP members agree with me, and I also know that many non-aligned people agree. Why are we waiting? And why are we playing by the United Kingdom's rules? And why are we shutting out 400,000 potential yes voters from our own franchise here in Scotland when we don't need to do that? Anyway, these are my opinions, but I've laid out what I hope are the facts here. I'm sure people will challenge me over the way in which we can force a snap general election, but my understanding of parliamentary procedure is that if the First Minister resigns and the party does not put forward another candidate, it does force the general election in Holyrood. But the SNP would need to grow a pair, and Nicola Sturgeon would have to agree to do this in order for it to work. Anyway, that's it from me today. I hope to see you again tomorrow. In the meantime, keep the faith, and remember that we need a twin-track approach to this. We need the political parties on a single mandate for independence at a Holyrood election this year, and also we need Salvo working in the background to secure the international ruling from the International Court of Justice at The Hague. Both of those things add up to a legitimate win for yes. That means that we can leave the Union. It means we can end the Union perfectly legally, regardless of how the United Kingdom behaves. And that's it. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.